Hey, man.
What's going on here?
At the beginning of the film, a war zone is shown that has ended, and there stands an American soldier named Nick, staggering, trying to walk out of a swamp. It turns out that he is currently quite seriously injured from an enemy attack that has caused his vision to deteriorate, and when Nick tries to seek help, he accidentally falls into a trap from the local residents. Afterwards, the locals rescued poor Nick, and there they sincerely treated his wounds, even taught him how to use a sword properly. The story continues 20 years later in Florida, where Nick has returned to America and plans to meet up with his old army buddy. On the way, he stops at a diner, but while enjoying his lunch, a group of thugs suddenly disturbs the peace in the diner, which annoys Nick. In the end, Nick beats up the local thugs one by one until they all collapse.
First, gringo.
What's going on here?
The story then shifts to the city of Nevada, where at night in a casino building, a man is being tortured by the casino owner. The man's name is Frank, and he turns out to be Nick's colleague from his days in the army. Frank owes money to the casino boss, and to pay off his debt, Frank, who is now a chemist, is forced by the casino boss to make drugs.
Whoa! I heard your ex-wife and son.
Elsewhere, Nick finally arrived at Frank's house and was greeted by a woman named Lynn and Frank's son, Billy. Lynn told Nick that she and Frank were divorced and that Frank no longer lived in the house. Suddenly, two police officers who were underlings of the casino boss arrived, and they intended to forcibly take Billy so they could force Frank to make drugs. Of course, Lynn tried to resist, but she was shot by the corrupt police. In the end, Nick, who couldn't accept this, immediately showed off his sword skills by fighting the casino boss's three henchmen. First, he injured one of the policeman's arms, then brutally beat another policeman. However, the last policeman managed to escape by jumping out of the house window. As Lynn lay dying, she entrusted Billy to Nick to take him to meet Frank, who now lives in Nevada, and because he couldn't refuse, Nick finally took Billy to meet Frank in Nevada City by bus. During the trip, Billy saw a photo of Nick and his own father when they were still serving in the army, and seeing it, Nick suddenly remembered his past with Billy's father when they were both active in the United States Army. In the middle of the transit trip, Billy suddenly ran away and ran into a cornfield. It turned out that corrupt police officer and his subordinates were following Billy, and Nick, who realized this, tried to chase Billy as best he could. But in the end, Billy was caught by the corrupt police officer and held in an old warehouse in the cornfield area. There, Nick tried to save Billy, and he also used his sense of hearing to fight the corrupt police officers. One by one, the corrupt police officers fell until finally Nick showed his sword skills, so he managed to overthrow the corrupt police officer and immediately ran to save Billy. But unfortunately, the corrupt police officer managed to survive Nick's attack because he was wearing a defense vest. The next day, they finally arrived at Frank's house and were greeted by Frank's friend Annie. Unfortunately, two other casino employees were there and immediately captured Nick and Billy. They then tied Nick and Billy up and intended to take them to the casino boss's office. Luckily, Nick and Billy managed to untie them.
Turn it around.
In short, the two of them and Annie took over the car and intended to retrieve Nick's cane, which the casino boss had thrown away.
Thanks, Billy.
Unwilling to accept defeat, the casino boss's two subordinates chased after them, and this time Nick took the wheel from Annie. Of course, Nick, who couldn't see, drove the car recklessly. A chase ensued, and eventually they managed to knock the casino boss's subordinate's car over.
Right there. You're going into the left lane.
Afterwards, the three of them hid at Annie's friend's place. And after finding out that Frank was being held at the casino, Nick planned to pick Frank up by himself. Nick arrived at the casino and, relying on his hearing, observed the access code to enter the elevator. Then he deliberately caused chaos in the casino gaming area, and when the casino boss's guards were off guard, Nick entered the elevator to smooth his way. After defeating several of the casino boss's underlings, Nick met one of the casino boss's right-hand men to ask where Frank was, and because he didn't get an answer, Nick beat up the casino boss's right-hand man and then took the key to the room where Frank was being held. In the end, Nick managed to meet Frank, and a reunion of old colleagues was seen there, although Frank initially didn't believe that his old friend was still alive. Before leaving, Frank kept his drug concoction and set the room on fire.
Blind man in a wheelchair!
In short, Nick and Frank went home to Billy and Annie's hideout, but when they arrived there, it turned out they were no longer there. Suddenly, the phone rang, informing them that Billy and Annie had been kidnapped by Casino Boss, who asked for the drug concoction Frank had brought in exchange for Billy and Annie's safety. Nick and Frank then went to where Billy and Annie were being held, and they boarded a gondola. But when they arrived at the top, the Casino Boss's subordinates immediately rained down gunfire. However, they were unable to stop Nick and Frank because the two of them managed to escape through a ventilation shaft. The Casino Boss's henchmen shot at Frank and Nick again in a hallway, and of course, the two of them ran as fast as they could to avoid the attack.
Okay!
Unfortunately for Nick, he was surrounded by the Casino Boss's henchmen, but luckily before Nick was killed, Frank managed to cut off the power in the room.
Oh shit! Where is he?
Then Nick once again demonstrated his sword skills, successfully taking down each of the Casino Boss's henchmen who had surrounded him.
Knock, knock.
Then they both continued their search and managed to enter the room where Billy and Annie were being held. There, Frank gave his drug concoction to be exchanged as initially agreed on the phone. But suddenly a samurai sent by the casino boss arrived to fight Nick, and a fierce battle between the sword experts ensued. At first, Nick was overwhelmed by the samurai expert, especially since Nick was also blind. However, due to his enemy's carelessness, Nick was finally able to knock him down until his enemy died in a pool of electricity. But unfortunately, Nick's fight was not over, because suddenly the corrupt police arrived and immediately shot Nick. With the strength he had left, Nick once again attacked the corrupt police officer and sent him to the afterlife. In the end, after all of the casino boss's men were defeated, Nick managed to save Billy and Annie, and he also managed to reunite Billy and Frank.